Hey everybody, today is October 20th, and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin finally breaking up to new all-time highs for the first time in 6 months, right? This is something that we've been talking about for really a long time now, and just in our last video, I talked about how I would love to see Bitcoin break up to new all-time highs by the end of October, and I said I had some reservations. I thought, hey, it'll be probably realistic if we go sideways for a while before breaking up higher, but it seems like there's a lot of buying momentum, a lot of excitement, optimism, right? Especially off the new Bitcoin futures ETF, which we talked about in our last video. And so yeah, Bitcoin's basically put in 4 straight consecutive green days. So the question is, are we going to see a bit of pullback, or are we just going to go straight up to our next potential resistance level, which is just above 70,000 over here? And before we begin, please read this description, and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so as we talked about many times before, there's two major indicators that I really like when we're looking at the general technical analysis, right? First is the Fibonacci lines. So the Fibonacci lines tend to act as strong support and resistance levels, as you can see here. Just going back to our run from October last year to April this year, right? A spectacular run, but you can see how when we hit these Fibonacci levels, they tend to act as resistance and support, right? Over here we had resistance, but then we kind of like slowly kept putting pressure, and we finally broke above. And most recently this year we had our first major correction in this incredible rally, right? Which was in January, where we came down and we held this Fibonacci level and turned it from resistance over here into support by holding it, right? The same thing over here, like when we came up, we had a bit of resistance here, but we broke above it, came down, retested it, held it, and turned it into support. But unfortunately, we held it support here and over here, but we unfortunately broke the support over here, which is why we had such a dramatic plunge, right? 55% correction earlier this year in May. But then again, we held this Fibonacci support level, which we also held back in January. So 30,000, right? And I talked about when I was making videos over here that if we weren't able to hold 30,000, we would plunge to the next major Fibonacci support level, which is 20,000, which is we spent some time turning this resistance into support by breaking above, right? Thankfully, we held it and we went up, and we found some resistance here because we held support for so long. So of course there was going to be a lot of sell walls around this area, and we actually had a bit of a crash here, and also China finally finalizing their ban on cryptocurrencies middle of September. And so what a turnaround, right? It's only been like 20 days since we bottomed around 40,000, and we're up more than 50%, right? So incredible. It just shows that cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin can move a lot faster than people expect, to the downside and up to the upside, right? And right now we are at 66,000. I think we peaked today just below 67,000. So we are right now in price discovery, and Bitcoin is likely to keep going higher. Especially historically when Bitcoin has broken previous all-time highs, especially when we've gone sideways and we cultivated support, right? Going sideways, we talked about in our last video how I was seeing a ascending triangle over here, right? A weekly ascending triangle. We break above this resistance level, we should be heading like straight up, right? Of course, there's going to be some small corrections and pullbacks along the way up. It doesn't just go straight up, right? At least not yet, right? Yeah, so if we are to subscribe to the theory that Fibonacci levels can give us strong support and resistance level, then we have one more resistance level before we head up to 80,000 to 100,000 beyond, right? Which is just about 70,000 over here. And like the way we're moving right now, it is possible we might actually test this level by the end of this month. And that'd be great because it can kind of go sideways for a while before pushing up, making the next leg higher in November. And we still have 2.5 months, well, less than 2.5 months left of the year. But historically speaking, when we're looking at Bitcoin, we subscribe to the 4-year cycle, right? Where we have strong bull market every 4 years. So 2013, and then 4 years later, 2017, and then now 2021, right? And this type of pattern fractal is looking very similar to this fractal back in 2013, where we had two bubbles, right? We had a big bubble, which was 6 consecutive monthly green candles, followed by a mid-cycle correction, and then one final blow off top before entering a bear market. And does this seem like we're following a similar pattern to 2013, right? 6 consecutive monthly green candles, and also another mid-cycle correction and a final blow off top, well above 100,000. So yeah, so Bitcoin right now looking very strong. The technicals look very good. The fundamentals are also great. regarding the fundamentals, we just had the Bitcoin futures ETF just started trading yesterday. So it's up, following Bitcoin very well right now. And let me just zoom in so we have more price action to look at. So yeah, as you can see, there's been a lot of buying. I think this was like the second most traded debuted ETF ever. So a lot of volumes. It just shows that people, institutions, and retail traders, they're manning more accessible cryptocurrency related products, right? So that you can buy in your brokerage account, that you don't have to go into a specialized exchange for cryptocurrencies and go through all the hassles of potentially getting hacked and losing your cryptocurrencies, when you can just conveniently buy it not only in your brokerage account but also in your retirement account. So these ETFs, and hopefully this will open the floodgates to more ETFs coming out, right? So this is a futures backed ETF, and this is our futures chart. We've just filled a gap. We talked about this in our last video. We filled a gap over here. That was 6 months ago, gap, right? So right now, price discovery mode, going up. And let's go back to this chart. Yeah, so a lot of people, they kind of had their reservations about a futures-backed ETF, because they said that the best way to have an ETF is to have a spot, right? To have actual Bitcoin instead of just the futures one, because that's the way the futures ETFs is set up is that the fund has to keep rolling contracts forward, because these futures contracts have expiration dates. So you have to close your position and roll forward, and that's just going to eat into the cost, right? With contango and price usually going up higher in further expiration dates. So all these fees and of course expense ratio, management fees, it's going to eat into your profits. Whereas you can just hold a spot ETF, spot Bitcoin in your ETF, and that would just be a lot more. It would be a lot cheaper for retailers to hold, right? But overall, this is a great first step. And there's a lot more ETFs that have been applied, but have not yet been approved or confirmed yet. But there's I think it's like 7 to 10 different, and they're all the same name. It's like the Bitcoin Strategy ETF, like some variation of that. But yeah, I mean, the more ETFs that get approved, the more choices that retailers and of course institutions have, and I think that's just going to be great for the cryptocurrency space and of course Bitcoin going forward. So yeah, let's look at the daily. MACD looking really strong, right? Yeah, hopefully we want to see the MACD make new highs, right? Continue upward, keep printing strong green histogram bars, and that's really just telling us that the buyers are in control, right? Another RSI finally breaking down at this multi-month, really the beginning of this year downtrend, right? You want to see this continue to go up, and yeah, just break this downtrend, because we don't want Bitcoin to go up and the RSI to go down, right? Because that's more indicative of distribution and smart money selling. But the fact that we have oscillators going up while Bitcoin continues to make new all-time highs, that's a good thing, because it's telling us that the buyers the bulls are in control. They're buying and they're pushing the price higher rather than selling, right? And expecting this to roll over and crash more, right? So overall, all our high time frames looking good, right? Daily chart looks good. Weekly chart looks good, looks very strong. Monthly charts looks good. And we compare this back to the 2013, right, where we had two market cycle tops with a mid-cycle correction. If that is the case, then November should be an incredible month, because November of 2013 we had a 450% monthly candle. So of course, history doesn't always repeat exactly, but it does tend to rhyme. So I do think that November and December are going to be spectacular months, and with October just really a great start to the fourth quarter, right? I do think that, yeah, November and December are going to be really exciting months, especially as we cover the price action going forward. So that's the technicals. Let's look at some of the on-chain data. So we have our hash rate. Hash rate is recovering nicely, but still not at the previous all-time high, which is April 14th, right? Which is also our previous all-time high that we just broke recently. So yeah, we want to see the hash rate recover, because hash rate and the price is usually correlated, and the more hash rate, the more secure, the better the network is for Bitcoin. And yeah, so Fear and Greed Index looking really strong in a strong bull market. So this was October to April of this year, October last year to April this year. We obviously saw this trend go up to make new all-time highs. We also saw the Fear and Greed Index at elevated levels above 90. So we want to see the Fear and Greed Index go up higher. There's still a lot of room to run. So there's no way are we really extremely overbought or anything like that. So I can see us going up to 90 and hanging around 90 for a while, and that'd be really great because it shows that, again, like the bulls are in control, right? So let's look at some of these models, right? 2-year multiplier tells us to exit Bitcoin that is overbought when the price goes above this orange reddish line, which is right now $122,000, right? But not only that, we tend to see the price overshoot before giving us a final exit signal. So this is telling us that Bitcoin has a lot of room to run a lot higher. It will likely not only hit 122,000 at least. You know, obviously as Bitcoin makes its way to the upper band, this band will continue to go higher and give us a higher price, into telling us that we are potentially overbought. But Bitcoin also has a history of overshooting. So not only are we going to hit 122,000, we're probably going to go way above there. So definitely give you a more realistic price as we see the Bitcoin price get closer to hitting this line, and we'll have a better estimate of where we might see the price tell us to sell. Price stock top indicator is going to be really one of those important indicators giving us an exit signal, because as you can see, this gave us a perfect signal to exit on April, right before the big 55% drawdown, of course, right? If you look at my videos, like, I'll admit that I was wrong. I said that I was really optimistic. I was like, wow, you know, this could be a false positive, right? It's not always right? Like this has been wrong before. Back over here, this model is supposed to give you an exit signal 3 days plus or minus before or after the Bitcoin price peaks. But of course, we had a crossover here, and Bitcoin still kept going up for a couple days, right? A couple weeks actually before it crashed. This was back in April 2013. So, but it's been right. Wait, hold on. Sorry, not April 2013. This was back in 2011. 2011. Right, May 2011 cross and final peak in June. So a couple weeks after it would cross, it actually started crashing. So this is in 2011. This model was wrong, but it's been right for the past 3 times. Right, the 2013 both crosses, both the first bubble in April and then the second bubble in 2013, and then of course the 2017 bubble, and they all led to bear markets, right? And so for me, I feel like this will be a very reliable exit signal, because it has been very accurate, and especially it's been accurate this year. So this to me is probably going to be the #1 exit signal that I'm going to rely on in terms of telling me when to start taking some profits. And this tends to this will basically signal an exit when the orange line goes above the green line. So Bitcoin needs to make a dramatic move for us to get an exit signal this year. Otherwise, it's going to be next year. Pull-out multiplier tells us that Bitcoin is overbought and to sell when we see this red maroon line enter this reddish orange shaded area. Right now, we have not even penetrated that area yet. We were very close in the middle of this year, but of course we had that 55% drawdown due to China cracking down on miners. So we actually fell down into oversold territory for a while before bouncing back up. So of course, there's still a lot of room to the upside before this model tells us that Bitcoin is overbought and to start to think about selling, right? Golden ratio multiplier tells us that Bitcoin is overbought when we break above this purple line, and this model will start to print a dotted line, and that when the price of Bitcoin touches the dotted line, that's when we want to sell, right? Bitcoin is a bear market when the price of Bitcoin drops below this orange line. Now, we actually got very close earlier this year. We actually peaked our head below the orange line, but we quickly recovered. And right now, Bitcoin is, of course, headed up higher, about to break this green band. And as we approach purple, we will see this line continue to go up higher, giving us a potentially higher exit signal. And so yeah, a lot of upside. And yeah, nowhere in these models are these models telling us that Bitcoin is overbought yet. There's still a lot of upside left, right? Logarithmic growth curve telling us that Bitcoin will likely peak when it hits the upper boundary, right? Here, and right now, this upper boundary, at least by the end of this year, is around 150,000, right? We look at sort of the deviation from this model. Well, we will see that when Bitcoin in the past, during the bull market cycles years, in 2017 and 2013, when we crossed above the 0.5 line, right, we tend to go parabolic. And right now we just crossed it, and we're likely to go parabolic again, right? I mean, we just talked about how this cycle is looking a lot like 2013, right? If we just look at this versus this, very similar, right? We had a the first top and then a mid-cycle correction, and then once we broke above 0.5, we just exploded higher, parabolic, right? Same thing, broke above 0.5, came down, broke above 0.5 again. So we should see the next 2 months, November, December, and the rest of October, just explode higher, parabolic, right? If this model is to be true. So still a lot of upside before telling us to take profits. Z-score, of course, tells us to take profits when this red maroon line breaks above this shaded red area. But we haven't even touched that line yet, so still a lot of upside, right? Called the 2013 both tops and also 2017, so fairly accurate model. Stock to flow, the last one we'll look at. Stock to flow tells us that the price of Bitcoin should be on average where this red line is. So right now due to the big correction that we had in the middle of this year, we're still below where we should be in terms of the price of Bitcoin according to this model, right? We can see the variance or deviation from the model based on these lines. If it's deviating below, it tends to be a good time to buy. If it's deviating above or overshooting, it turns red, and that's generally times where you want to think about selling, right? As you can see, Bitcoin tells us to sell when we see a huge spike once we cross the red zone. So once this crosses the zone, we should see a huge parabolic move into the end of the year. And when we see this model spike red, and it does look like it has a pattern of spiking less in magnitude every cycle. So we might actually see the price, or this model tells us to spike maybe below, around here or below. So just something to think about. But yeah, I mean, according to this model, we tend to not only break above this red line, but we tend to overshoot to the upside, right, before correcting and stabilizing around the red line on average, right? And that's what we might see going forward. We might see the peak of this cycle overshoot above maybe $200,000 or even $300,000 before crashing into a bear market, stabilizing around 80,000, right, in the next 2 to 3 years after the market peaks later this year. So yeah, I mean, all of these indicators are very, very bullish, telling us that we are likely recovering from the mid-cycle correction that we had in the summer of this year, and we are about to enter possibly the second leg higher, right? The second leg higher, like we saw in 2013, exit the mid-cycle correction, make new all-time high, and explode higher, right? We just made a new all-time high today. Exiting this mid-cycle correction, we will likely, if history rhymes, we will likely see a similar price action as 2013 as we're seeing now, right? 6 consecutive green monthly candles followed by a mid-cycle correction, and huge parabolic move in November and December. So again, just to summarize, Bitcoin is looking really strong, and it's holding the new all-time high very strong, right? Our previous all-time high was just below 65,000. So right now we're 66,000. We've been holding that level very well. So what we want to see a continuation of Bitcoin to hold above and just continue higher, right? I do believe we'll see resistance around 70,000, 80,000, which is our last Fibonacci line our last Fibonacci resistance level as it pertains to this specific tool in TradingView, and that will likely hit by the end of this month. So if we hit there, I do believe we might see some resistance. But once we break above that, I think the next resistance level is 80,000 and then eventually 100,000. Once we break through 100,000, I think we're going to see FOMO just like we saw in 2017. And if you were with me back in 2013, I think there's just going to be a lot of FOMO in the last 2 months of this year, especially if Bitcoin can break 100,000. I think everybody, their mom, their grandma, everybody who, even people who don't trade, they're just going to buy Bitcoin because they see all their friends making money. And yeah, lastly, I just want to talk about how generally when we see the price of Bitcoin run higher in a strong bull market, we tend to see these moving averages line up in a sort of bullish posture, right? Silver above gold, above blue, or 50-day moving average above the 100-day moving average, above the 200-day moving average, right? Gold, and right now we had a cross a couple of days ago. We just talked about this in our previous video, and also we're seeing the price of Bitcoin just go parabolic as this cross is happening. So this is really just confirming that the bulls are happy now that they're seeing this silver above the gold above the blue line, even though it is just crossed a couple of days ago. But when this happens, we tend to see a huge parabolic run. And just to really reiterate this as our last point, I want you to pay attention, right? Let me just go back to, so this is 2013, right? We had our peak in April, just like we had in April this year, followed by a mid-cycle correction, recovery, and then once we broke the peak back in April, we just exploded higher, right? But pay attention to this. We had our golden cross, or sorry, not the golden cross. We had a cross of the 100 above the 200, right? The gold crossing the blue line. pay attention to when this happened. This happened in October 18th, right? October 2013, we saw the gold line cross above the blue line, and we were back in a bullish posture where we had silver above gold above blue, and we saw the price explode higher. Same thing, once we saw on October 18th or 19th, around this area, once we saw the gold cross above the blue line, silver above gold above blue, we saw the price explode higher, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Going back here, so you can see we crossed silver above blue, right? Sorry, gold above blue, and now we are postulated silver above gold above blue. And guess when this happened? This cross happened on October 18th of this year, right? Just a couple days ago. Whereas the last cross happened on October 18th or 19th of 2013. So we're seeing very similar price action, and when that happened, we saw it explode higher. So I mean, just everything that I just went through, the technicals, the fundamentals, all these models, everything is telling us that Bitcoin is likely going to go up a lot higher, not only hitting 100,000 but beyond. But hey, let's take these things one step at a time. We'll definitely update you going forward, and hopefully by the next time we can see Bitcoin moving up to our final Fibonacci resistance level, at least on this chart, right, in TradingView, which is just below 70,000. And if we can break this level, I think 80,000 is our next resistance level, and 100,000. Once we break 100,000, who knows, Bitcoin will it can go to the moon, right, as they all say. So really exciting times ahead. And I'll definitely be here to update you guys, and we'll definitely talk about the price action and all the fundamentals and technicals of this really exciting time in cryptocurrency space going forward as the price action develops. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, useful, or informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe for updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.